Hello, Stephan.
Hey, hi there. How you doing?
Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, it's been a while. We tried.
Yeah, we tried. Well, I think that there is no need to introduce you to our viewers because you've become some kind of a rock star in the community. And the ongoing pre-sale of the DAO makes you even more famous and probably more busy. And
Well,
I
busy, that's for sure. I'm not sure about famous, but busy, you get that right. Yeah.
yeah. And I have some great questions for you today, and I hope you're gonna find some answers.
Pleasure.
So the first question is gonna be an easy one. Uh, first of all, I would like to congratulate you because you're the third most crowd-funded project in the world in the history right now, and you gonna probably be the second one in the world.
Can I interrupt you right there?
Yeah,
Sorry, DAO is the
DA.
project that's the currently, I think, third or second most crowdfunded project. We ourselves, SlockIt, we just made the framework for the DAO available to the public, and DAO Hub, its community, instantiated that DAO, and that's what's getting crowdfunded at the moment.
Yes, I know. I just was taking a shortcut, but
It's an important
you've made
distinction
it
because
possible.
we ourselves, we're still gonna have to submit a proposal to this. There's no guarantee it will be accepted. We're gonna have to work hard for it. We're gonna have to work hard for delivering it and bring value to the DO members. So we still have to convince I think 4,000 or so right now DO token holders that our proposal is a good proposal amongst the dozens of other proposals that are sure to be out there by the time the creation phase ends.
So, okay, so in a few words, could you sum up what is the DAO?
Okay, so the DAO is, if you will, a decentralized company that's entirely under the control of those that help make it happen, that helped become real, that they help create it into existence. So I don't want to use the term shares because it's not exactly shares, but DAO tokens represents votes that people can then use to vote on important business decisions, including proposals from contractors that want to build products and services that will then derive value for the DAO itself, just like any client-supplier relationship you have in the real world today. It's actually not really different at all from the current world structure. What's different is that it's on the blockchain, so it's immutable, it's incorruptible, it's completely transparent, it's transparent form of governance. You can see, if a decision goes through, if a proposal goes through for X millions of dollars, then it's not secret backroom deals and handshakes and whatnot. This is a public vote that's immutable in the blockchain that people can then check and say, yeah, provably this was the proposal that won. And I think that's the really big differentiator here, the transparent governance and the fact that the code itself is immutable. You do not have to trust the DAO. And in fact, I would encourage anyone to go and check the code. You can just read the code of the DAO and see what it does. And you know for sure that it will do what it says it will do because it's on the blockchain.
Great. Okay, because I spoke with a lot of people about the DAO, and there's, I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding about this.
Yes.
And so the first question of the tough ones is going to be, because, in my opinion, the DAO is a kind of the crowd-funded fund, which is going to hire some contractors, hopefully SlockIt, and there's this problem. You probably have heard about this. It's called the agency dilemma, or a principal agency problem, which is that what is the interest of the contractor to deliver to the DAO? To the DAO success?
It's a good question.
And yeah, it's a trick question. We love you and we trust you. You've been in a community from the beginning, and we really believe that you're going to deliver the Ethereum computer and the framework. But there will be some other contractors who's may think that the DAO's money is a risk-free money.
Okay.
So
the
who takes the risk and who takes the reward after the success or a failure?
Yeah. So what's really important to understand, and this is why I wasn't too happy with the term share, is that people who are creating the EO tokens are not receiving shares or taking a part in the contractor's company, including SlockIt and including others. Now, it's possible that in the future, this might change. It's possible that with the work, for example, we're doing with the EO Link, that somehow one day we're able to get the DAO to be able to obtain a part of the shares from the companies that contracts for it. But in the current model, that's absolutely not how it works. And in fact, in our proposal, it's clearly a client-supplier relationship. So your question is basically saying, why does a supplier deliver for a client when you're a company like the one I used to work previously, Visa? You work with thousands and thousands, dozens of thousands of course, of suppliers. Why are they delivering? Why, when we send a check for a couple $1 million to Oracle, why are they sending us the license? Why they just take the money and run with it? Well, obviously, it's because it's not going to be the only proposal, and they're taking a profit from that proposal. So, for example, if something was to cost $100, they would sell it to the DAO for $120 and make a profit. That's how they make their money. It's pretty simple, and it's how the world works today. And then subsequently, they're thinking, well, we better do a good job on this one because we got another proposal and another proposal and another proposal lined up, and we want to make sure that we're going to get hired by the DAO to deliver on these other proposals that we're about to submit. Now, of course, just like any contractors in the real world, if you ever had to have your kitchen done or something like that, some work done in your house, and you work with house contractors, we tend to be, I don't want to disparage the industry, but they tend to be a bit cowboys. You have to be careful and you have to do your due diligence. So of course, you don't just sign the first proposal you find with the contractors because it sounds good. You're going to go and make sure that you do your due diligence on that contractor. Who are they, right? Who are their previous clients? What work have they delivered in the past? Was it a success? Do they have expertise in the field that they're trying to delivering the proposal on? You're going to do all this, and that's expected from the DAO and the DAO token holders to do that due diligence on each and every contractor, including on the smart contract itself that represents the proposal between the contractor and the DAO. So you need to go and have that code audited, right? Of course, because it's going to define the payment terms, it's going to define the milestone and KPIs, if any. So it's really important to guarantee this, and that's the only way you're going to make sure the incentives are aligned. But incentive alignment in this case isn't about taking share and mutual success in both companies. That's not how it works at the moment. It's purely a client-supplier relationship.
Okay, so there is a risk that some proposals may fail, and all risk lies on the DAO side. Right?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, let's take our example. If we were to deliver, you've seen the proposal, the text is out. When we're going to show you the contract code, which we made a sample of online on our GitHub, if you go through that, you'll see that there's payment terms. So the payment terms say you will pay us X thousands of dollars a month to go and deliver the Ethereum computer. Now, while we're doing the building of the Ethereum computer, this is going to take 24 months, right? We have to be clear about timeline. This isn't tomorrow. This isn't in 6 months. This is a year and a half, potentially even 2 years down the line, depending on the scope of the proposal that we're going to submit. But if we were midway doing a bad job, or somehow the trust and that we have gained so far apparently was lost because, well, whatever reason, if you ever had a contractor and you lost trust in them, maybe they don't show up for work one morning, you don't see them on the construction site, they're all smoking cigarettes and listening to music instead of working. Well, you want to fire them, right? Or
someone hired paid trolls to make you go under,
or whatever, basically we lose that contract, because that's exactly what it is. Then we lose a big portion of our income. That means we all lose future portion of our income. That means that in our pipeline now we have a gaping hole. That means people are going home, right? And that means firing people in our own team. That means potentially our own company being seriously hurt by this, because we now have a complete lack of resource, because we're talking about matrix teams here. So they're not just going to work on this project. They could be working on 3 or 4 different projects if their time isn't needed 100% on any given project, just like any other agency, like you said. we lose these people, we lose potentially even for the clients, and of course it looks terrible on us. Remember, we're a commercial company, we're a for-profit company, we have our name out there, we're working with big energy companies. These guys want to make sure that their contractors are good guys. And the same question you're asking about the DAO relationship to us is the same relationship that RWE has with us, right? So they're going to ask the same question.
You know, because as far as I understand it, the DAO is going to, you know, pay up front, right?
No. Simple as that. The DO is not, this is not Kickstarter, right? You're not taking a pot of money and sending it to a contractor that promised some vague thing. You have, well, you could if you wanted to. I mean, it's completely possible for a proposal to say, send me a pot of money and trust me, we're not going to waste it. Just like any other Kickstarter works today, right? By the way. Yeah. No, in this case, you define payment terms, and the offer that we're going to make available, that's going to be a monthly payment. So you pull the plug on that, I'm letting people go in my company, and I don't want that. I assure you that.
Okay. As you said, the DAOs are basically the alignments of incentives, right?
Yeah.
And if you hold any stake in the DAO, you have an incentive to DAO to success, right?
Right.
And so let me ask you up front, do you hold any stake in the DAO?
So that's a common question. So for a while, some people were saying, well, you know, how many DAO token is SlockIt going to hold, as if it was a Slock token? It's not. I mean, again, there's going to be a lot of proposals. I'm talking to quite a few people who approached us and said, wow, this is amazing, $22 million. We want a part of that. Right, you can imagine there's a lot of established businesses, established companies that were planning crowd sales that are currently thinking, you know what, we're not going to do crowd sales anymore. We're going to see some way to align incentives with the DAO and contact them. You know, how much tokens SlockIt holds? Zero, right? Zero. It's entirely decentralized. Okay, so that's really, really important to understand that SlockIt this is not SlockIt DAO. This is the DAO.
Yeah, I know, but
it could be called the Genesis DAO or the Dawn or whatever you want to call it, and it's hiring SlockIt. Now, as to how many token I hold, that's for me to know. You know, I believe in financial privacy. It's like you asking me how many Bitcoins do I hold or how many Ether do I hold.
Straightforward question. I know you may not answer, but do you hold any? Do you hold any?
As individuals, we have allowed our staff to purchase as many tokens as they want, since we cannot prevent them. As a company, we will hold zero. That's my answer to you.
Okay, so it's okay. So the next question: how the DAO is going to make profit?
Mm-hmm. Well, backing proposals that succeed, and it's gonna be tough. You said early on, you said it could fail. Yes, it could fail. Usually in the IT world, 9 out of 10 startups fail. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
In the crypto space, it could be even more in the crypto space. It could be 9.5 out of 10, if that's even a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But you know how it works, right? You got 9 that fail and 1 that goes unicorn. And so that's unfortunately the way the world works, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it weeds out the bad ones out there. But the DO is going to have to back the right proposals, and it's going to have to back the right projects. And we think that as a group, it's perfectly capable of achieving that role. Some people think wisdom of crowd is a myth. I disagree. I think that wisdom of crowd, when in the case of, you've heard of Boty McBoatface? Have you heard of that?
Oh, no.
Okay, so Boty, there's a ship, a polar research ship in Great Britain, which was the name of which was put up to a poll, a survey by the Department of Science or the Ministry of Science in Great Britain. And so they made this online survey, and the #1 vote was Boty McBoatface, right? Which is hilarious, and it's very British, obviously, British type humor. But it's not a very good boat name, right? I think we can all agree on that. So it's actually going to be renamed the RSS David Attenborough, who's a famous person here in England. So overriding the public vote. So in this case, yes, I mean, it was a failure, but why? Well, why? Because no one from the people who voted on this survey were to be sitting on that boat with a label that said, I work for Mac Boatface, or had to put down on their resume. No one was vested. No one had anything to lose, right? In the case of the DAO token holders, they're all vested. So not only do they want this to succeed, so there's not going to be DAO Mac DAO face, but they also want to promote this DAO to other people, to their friends, to their family, to their local social media networks, in their language, using their culture. If you have 4,000 people purchasing DAO tokens today, that means 4,000 people working in social media, and that actually can compete against a company like Microsoft or Google. That certainly is a bigger social media department than this company. I think that's where people should look at. They should think about, okay, we support this proposal, but now we need to use our network to back it up. We need to have, who's in our network is good at making logos, is good at marketing, is good at promoting. Let's go contact them. Let's ask them to make proposals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. This might be the first of a kind, great, massive experiment, and I hope it's gonna run great.
I think it's the third, really. I mean, the first one was Bitcoin, the second one was Ethereum, and this would be the third,
Yeah, okay. But in the relationship is different, and the incentive alignment is quite different in Bitcoin.
And there's no pre-mine.
Yeah, there's no pre-mine.
Nobody gets an advantage from the other guy. That's what I like about this.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is how fond do you feel that the SlockIt is going to be chosen as a contractor of DAO?
How what? Sorry.
How strong do you feel that the SlockIt's proposal is going to come through in the DAO?
I'm very confident, for the simple reason that I think we have a demonstrated expertise in the field that we're approaching here, which is obviously cryptography. We have an amazing team. Christoph Jens, who was the lead tester for Ethereum, Lefteris Karapetsas, who was one of the lead developers for the C++ client at Dev Berlin for the official Ethereum team. We have amazing advisors, Christian Reisweiner, the inventor of the implementer, I should say, of Solidity, the smart contract programming language. And we have the inventor of the smart contract programming language and the inventor of Web3 himself as an advisor, Gavin Wood, of course, the former CTO of Ethereum. So, I mean, we have a kick-ass team, right? This is dream team.
This is dream team. No other proposal is going to have that, probably.
I don't think so. I mean, we got, they're ours. So unless they jump ship, I'm pretty confident. And, this has been our bread and butter, right? IoT plus blockchain. That's been our obsession in the last year or so. I mean, people just discover the DAO because it's successful, etc. You know how this mainstream media stuff works. But I mean, we've been at it for a year, right? I was helping Adept a year and a half ago with their white paper on integrating smart washing machines with the Ethereum network. So, we've been thinking about this stuff a long, long time and how to do it properly and what it would look like. What are the pitfalls? Because there are pitfalls. Which parts of blockchains are too limited today to support this on a mass scale? And how can we help unlock it? So light clients, things of that nature. We're seriously looking into all this, and we look forward to deliver a proposal that will not just only deliver the Ethereum computer, the universal sharing network, but also potentially improve on the Ethereum protocol itself by, contributing upstream to the Ethereum repository, because Foundation is obviously something we want to support.
Okay, so because when I see the SlockIt's vision of the self-renting things, and this is a huge vision, and I as a huge vision, I think that it's going to need a lot of money. Do you have a figure in your number? How much money will SlockIt, will need to come up with this, to make it true?
Yeah. How long is a piece of string, right? So, I mean, like you said, if you read the high-level vision, and we're going to have a blog post by Griff Green, I think, coming up in the coming days about the big vision around the universal sharing network. I mean, we're talking about just that, the universal sharing network. So anything you can share, rent, sell, share, would go through this network. Why? Because it's decentralized. Why is that important? Because decentralized itself isn't enough. Well, because it's cheaper, faster, better, more secure, etc. You know the advantages of the blockchain. I don't need to tell that to your audience. I think what is going to define the scope is the Ethereum computer, which is going to sort of spearhead that challenge, if you will. So at the moment, the smart locks that you have in your home, they're very small, as you know. I mean, I have one, an Augur smart lock. They're pretty small. An August, sorry. Augur is a different project. August smart lock. These things are pretty small. They can't run the blockchain. So you need this Ethereum computer to intermediate, if you will, all those transactions and relay them back to the blockchain. Plus, it has some interesting features like not having to have 30 different blockchains running in your home. Some synchronizing.
Okay, what's the figure? What's the number?
I do not have a figure until we submit the final proposal. And that will be contained in the final proposal, which we will make available 2 days before, probably 2-3 days before the end of the creation period, based on our current project plan. Because we're working on this. You know, we're not sitting on our behinds. I can't swear on this show, can I? We're not sitting on our behinds doing nothing. We're working day and night on this stuff, right? And we're still working on the proposal, which still needs to be tested, and the numbers still need to be confirmed. You know, I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, it's a big, ambitious proposal, and give us millions of pounds, blah, blah, blah. You know, great. How do you scale? Right? How fast can you hire those people?
This is my next question.
Right. Exactly.
Who's going to be the client of the DAO? Who's going to buy the Ethereum computer? Is it going to be like geeks or some like companies, hardware manufacturers? Who's going to buy it?
All of these, plus ideally my mom. So really the big vision here, if you were to look at the really big vision, so this would be in our plan, this sort of so-called aggressive proposal, right? The aggressive proposal is you have this device. It's not called the Ethereum computer, first of all. That will never sell. It's obvious. We need to have this on the Amazon.com shelf. We need to have this on the Newegg shelf, the Best Buy shelf, and even the local Dixon's, which is a local hardware store here in the UK.
So it's going to be some kind of project like the Raspberry Pi, or
no. So in simplest form, it could be just a Raspberry Pi with the Ethereum client that we are developing on Ubuntu Core, and that's it, right? But that's rubbish because they fail very quickly. I don't know if you ever tried to run the Ethereum platform on a Raspberry Pi, but you're gonna kill the SD card dead within 3 weeks, right? It just isn't there. So it's going to need a lot of love and TLC to make sure that actually this stuff works and is solid and is customer grade. As in, I plug it in and I get this really cool URL that appears on a tiny screen. I go to that URL, it synchronizes with my Wi-Fi, it goes online, detects all the locks into my house, my door lock and whatever other smart object I might have. It asks me if I want to rent them, sell, or share them. It just makes it all easy through a web interface, and it looks sexy, right? And it's not just a box. That stuff, if we were to implement it in the big grand scheme of things, would cost a lot of money, absolutely no doubt. I mean, to give a scale, right? The 21Co, which is this company that does Bitcoin computers, has received $120 million in funding. Okay, so that's, and that's just to build a Bitcoin computer, which doesn't do half of the things that the Ethereum computer that we're trying to build will do. So, you know, you gotta put things into perspective. Consumer electronic is expensive and it's hard because then you need to market it and you need to get it into my mom's house. Why does she need it?
Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? This is the next question. Who's
so
gonna market it?
Marketing and everything around it, we want to help spearhead that. But we don't have to be the only one. Remember, the design of the Ethereum computer is completely free and open source. That's another thing, a big misconception that people have, that somehow we build the Ethereum computer, we keep it, the rights to it, the trademark, the whatever, the patents, I don't know, whatever you can think of, and then we start selling them and making lots and lots of money out of it without taking the risk. No. The code, the hardware, all of this is open source under the MIT license, meaning it can be reused for commercial purposes by anyone. That means that Chinese manufacturers could take the Ethereum computer plans and make cheaper ones. And that's okay because it will help with the DAO ecosystem. It will help sort of promoting this universal sharing network. The idea of having closed down hardware is not going to sell much, if you will. So we're trying to open this up to anyone to build and reproduce. So there's no trademark, there is no patent. Everything is in the public domain, and everything is based on network effects.
Okay, so the DAO is going to make profit from every transaction on an Ethereum computer, right?
Correct, true? Yes. So every transaction that's mediated by the Ethereum computer is going to make money to the DAO. Yeah.
Okay, so the second question is, so if the Ethereum computer and the framework is open source, what can stop a Samsung or, I don't know, Toshiba or any other hardware manufacturer to do exactly the same, but not paying a premium to the DAO?
That's a great question. It comes back all the time, right? So if it's open hardware, if I can just create a Raspberry Pi that has this stuff, why isn't somebody just going to copy it and make a better one? Well, the reason for that is because if you exclude the DAO part, if you exclude the smart contract bit, you're not getting the advantages of decentralization, namely...
Okay, but they might not exclude the decentralized thing, but they may exclude the DAO.
Oh, in that case, it's a fork. In that case, okay. So you're talking about them creating a new DAO and then executing on that idea and distribute it. Yeah, they could do that, but they would now lose the whole network effects of the DAO itself. It's like saying, why can't I just copy Facebook? Right? The code is easy to build. It's just a social network. We all understand how that works. Why can't you just make a copy? Well, you can. Nobody's going to come. That's why. So it's important, and for the Ethereum computer in particular, and the universal sharing network, to gain a foothold. It's all based on network effects. There's nothing new in these principles that hasn't been invented a dozen times before. It's just based on blockchain technology this time. So gaining a foothold in the consumer market very rapidly is going to be critical to the success of this project, and that's about it. That's what it needs to do. First mover advantage.
To be clear, there is the risk that someone like I don't know, take Samsung or Apple or someone else can do the fork and exclude the DAO from the equation.
It wouldn't be excluded, because remember, when you say exclude, there's a sense that somehow there's a network and then it's being cut. This would be two different networks, right? So there is no exclusion in place, since there's nothing to exclude from. But you could have another network that does the exact same thing, yes. Just like with Ethereum, I don't know if you remember the early days. This is great, by the way. It reminds me of the discussions we had in the early days of Ethereum, which was, well, if the code for Ethereum is already available online, then why isn't someone else, like the Bitcoin guys, copying it, right? And making their own Ethereum? The answer is nothing stops them. So when you reply that to people, they'll be like, oh my God, that's crazy. It's going to get forked. And then you had people who were I think I remember a fork called Ethereum. Now, I might be the only one to remember it, because no one remembers it, because it failed, of course, because the real network effects were behind Ethereum and the team that could make Ethereum possible. And that's how these things work. Network effects all the way.
Yeah, I know, but Apple has a great network effect, and they can put the Ethereum computer in every product they could, and they make their own network. And
yes. Actually, not only that, but you need to look at it in a different way. I think this is still it's a great conversation. It's a good way to sort of clarify some misconceptions. So, for example, the Ethereum computer itself is as I said, the spearhead of this project. The universal sharing network is where it's at. So we're working with Samsung, as you saw, to implement a platform on the Arctic platform, right? The computing device. That's running on Ubuntu Core. Okay, so Ubuntu Core is this operating system made by Ubuntu that's supposed to run on any device that's IoT enabled. Okay, so far. Now, we've built the Ethereum framework for that, and we're going to build, very unlikely we don't do it that way, there's still a chance, but very likely that we will build the Ethereum the Ethereum SlockIt application, if you will, the universal sharing network, on top of that. right? So at that point, it means this app can be installed on any device that supports Ubuntu Core. Now, that doesn't mean that every device can share or rent or whatever, anything else, because they still need Z-Wave, Zigbee, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi functionalities, right? But that means that potentially you can command some Wi-Fi driven smart lock. I think the August smart lock supports, in fact, exclusively Wi-Fi, so it'd be a good use case for that. And you could have that app on a router. So for me, the revenue for the DAO is over time, long-term, going to come primarily from the deployment of these apps, and not necessarily from the Ethereum computer itself. The Ethereum computer is just spearheading, and it's also a cool project that a lot of people in the space want to purchase. So it will help increase the number of nodes. It will help put it into the mainstream media's head because it will have a shape. People can touch it. People like that physicality. It's not just an app. It has that app that runs on it, and then that app goes viral on routers, on these slams, on whatnot. Right? So, and through that app, the DAO will continue making money because it takes a percentage out of all these commissions. If you were to exclude, because I know that's going to be your next question, but what if I remove the app is open source, what if I remove the code? It's like saying, what if I remove the app store from the iPhone? You could, I guess, a hacker could go and do that, and maybe Apple could go and do that, but they're not going to do that because it's going to acquire the network effects it requires in order to be successful first. Well, at least that's my opinion. But there's a chance,
Yeah, there's a good chance, and we are all holding for that. Okay, so the next question: who's gonna sign the agreement between the DAO and SlockIt?
Okay, so that's a good question.
Is it going to be cryptographic agreement?
Yeah, of course. So it's a cryptographic proposal. It's called a proposal. There's a sample of it on our GitHub, and it has a code that you can read in Solidity. We'll make it available, as I said, 2 or 3 days before the end of the creation phase. In there, there'll be, terms. It could be payment terms, can be KPIs, milestone, can be anything. And it'll have a hash of the English version of the proposal embedded in there, so people can go and refer to it, right? And that's what it looks like.
Okay.
That's how every proposal should be, by the way. So it's not in English where the terms can be interpreted. Never mind if you're trying to do business internationally and you're trying to translate a contract between French and English, and the terms will be slightly different, especially the language. There's some subtleties. There's no subtleties in code. That's what I love about it. It works in China. It works in France.
Great. That's always work as it's supposed to. Okay. Next question. Do you have any knowledge of other companies interested in making a proposal to the DAO?
Yeah, there's one already on the DAO website called Mobotic, which I think is a really cool project that's vastly misunderstood and underestimated at the moment. These guys have a winner on their hand, or at least that's my opinion, where you're talking about these little urban vehicles that can be rented, but are owned by the people, not by Uber, not by Volkswagen, not by BMW, owned by the people that purchase these things and then make them available for rent. And they're not big cars. They look like a bit like trikes, if you will. Might not be the most sexy thing at the moment. They still need to do work, I think, on the shape of their...
They look great, in my opinion.
You think they look great? Okay, well, that's fine.
I would really like to rent one,
I think they're fun. And it has like 16 airbags or something, so you feel pretty safe. It's like a cocoon. And I mean, that stuff is genius. To me, that's exactly what we talked about in all these years with Ethereum and what it was for. It's about giving people the power to go and rent stuff that belongs to them. Actually, there's some great synergies with SlockIt here. So that's one of them. There's other proposals out there that people have approached me and said they wanted to submit proposals. I'm sure they'll reveal themselves in the coming weeks.
Okay, great. I have a question from...
One more thing on this, sorry, but it's actually almost amusing to answer this and almost having to find proposals. I mean, if you think there's something that holds $22 million that's not going to get bombarded with requests from everyone and their grandmother.
Yeah, I had one question about that. Who's going to prevent from spam proposals? If the fund if the fund has 20 or more $1 million, and you just can make a proposal, and every token holder can make a proposal. So how the DAO can fight the spam proposals? It's going to be too much. and these thousands of people voting. I'm afraid that it's going to be it's going to be too much.
So great. Again, this is, I would say, on the same type of worry that are on the line of Bitcoin can only do 7 transactions per second. Does it mean Bitcoin is useless? No, it's useful. Why? Because it hasn't reached the point where it needs to do 7 transactions per second. Same thing for the DAO and those proposals. Yes, there will be thousands of proposals. When the EU does a fund called Horizon 2020 and offers 50 billion grant for people to go and build whatever, they must get hundreds of thousands of applications from all over the world, I'm sure of that. In the case of the DAOs, there's a couple of anti-spam measures. First of all, there's the proposal cost, which is at the moment 2 Ether, so you can't just spam them indefinitely, or well, you could, but it would cost you quite a bit of money. And then there is the interface. So we haven't talked about that. So at the moment, there is no interface. At the moment, you're interacting with a contract via JSON interface, which is pretty hard to use. So we're going to make a visual interface, vote yes, no for proposal X, long list of proposals, top-down structure kind of thing. And already
you're going to do it as a proposal to the DAO or a
No, that's something we're building now because it's in our interest for it to be easy to vote. I mean, the worst thing that can happen to the DAO is if no one votes. I'd be surprised if that happened because, again, as I said, when people are vested, the immaturity goes away, the trolling goes away.
There's always a percentage of the lazy voters who just,
of course, we see that in presidential election, yeah, of course there are lazy voters, but lazy voters in the context of a presidential election, and they think, I don't really care who the president is because right, left, it's all the same to me. It's very different from, I've put $100 in this and I don't care what happens to my $100, if you see what I mean. I think people really care more. In fact, that's a bit sad, actually, if you ask me. They care more about their $100 than they care about who's going to be the next president. And I think they will vote. They will vote. I mean, yes, not everyone will vote. Some people will be on holiday, whatever. But especially, remember, the people who've created the most tokens are going to be able to have the most weight in these decisions because they take the most risk. If they take the most risk, it's very likely they'll want to vote. And they'll decline the proposals that don't make sense, that are silly, etc. And over time, we have a function, which is like an exodus function, that allows people to move to a different type of governance structure, if you will. So that governance structure could be futurarchy, for example, or it could be liquid democracy. It could be anything. And we think people will submit proposals for the development of such governance models because the simple yes-no model that we've put in right now, what's important about it is it's secure, right? That's the important bit. That was the big thing for us. Make it secure, make it audited, make it work. And
okay, so could you tell us more about this? Could you tell us more about this interface? It's going to be, so can I miss some voting, or can I decline or say yes? How is it going to be working? Do you have any idea of that?
So it's so in the coming weeks. Maybe even earlier, we're going to release a piece of code for the DO framework, which allows people to vote. It's done in partnership with MyEther wallet, who's been an absolute brilliant partner in the DO Hub token creation phase. They've helped a lot of people generating wallets. In this case, they're going to create this interface with the help of the community to go and integrate a yes/no type button. You type the proposal ID at the top and you press yes. Right? It's not fancy, so please don't have expectation of fanciness, 3D graphics or virtual reality or whatever. Right? This is going to be 2 buttons. Yes, no, that's it. Type the proposal ID number that was given to you by the proposal people and press yes or press no, or don't press. I mean, you can abstain. I mean, that's up to you, right? It's not going to be fancy, but it's going to work. And it's going to be integrated, as I understand it, with the DO Hub website. It's going to be integrated as part of the MyEther wallet interface. And it's going to be made completely public and open source for people to go inspect, audit, of course, that's the most important thing. And second, reproduce, expand on, improve on, and build whatever model of interface they want to see on that. But we'll continue working on the DO framework. I mean, this is our baby, The DAO isn't our baby per se, it's its own thing, but the framework is our baby. So we'll continue improving on that, and if this DAO wants to adopt these new models that we're building, they can, after they review and audit the code, of course. If they don't want to, if they want to use someone else's model, that's fine too.
Okay, so what happens if the DAO burns all the money?
Well, like burn it as in burn it as an experiment, a social experiment.
Because there's a bottom of the crash, you know.
Right, right. Runs out of cash on hand, so to speak. Right.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, first of all, I hope it doesn't get to that. So, two things. A, I hope they vote on the right proposals, so they get proposals that generate ETH, and the ETH goes back to the DAO. Number one. Number two, I hope that they also are smart enough not to spend it all in one place, right? So,
for example, on SlockIt, right?
Well, yeah, it won't be on SlockIt, but it could be on 10 proposals, right?
Yeah.
And assign 10% of on each proposals. Now, no more Ether. So what do? Well, we hope that the money comes in. I suppose that's not a very good strategy. I think people would be smarter than that. I think people really underestimate how smart the people who are getting involved is. I mean, it's almost like
I always say that.
Yeah, completely underestimated. But anyway,
for
the sake of argument, because I see where you're going with this. For the sake of argument, it would be possible then for the existing DAO token holders to decide to create a new DAO which would have more tokens than the first one had.
Okay, that answers my question there.
Right, and then that would be like the equivalent of a series A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever you want to call it. And of course, they would be smart, and they would make sure that the initial DAO tokens would have more values than the ones that are being created now, to protect themselves from dilution, of course.
Do you see any problem with the free trade of the DAO tokens on the free market? Because
yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, no, because it's designed for peer-to-peer trading anyway. There's a function in there that says send. It's compatible with the standard token framework by the Ethereum Foundation and Consensus. So anyone can register the token, send it to their friends without having to go through an exchange. Now, if it goes through an exchange, I don't think it's a problem. Again, people are exchanging stuff. That's normal. What does worry me a little bit, and we need to do more work and educational work with exchanges, is that I wouldn't want exchanges to hold all the DAO tokens, right? Because that would be pretty bad news for the voting stuff that we talked about earlier, because exchanges can vote, remember that. And I mean, if you guys are listening now and you have DAO tokens, remember, exchanges can vote. They have your private keys. So be careful. And
that's a good news. That's a big news. It's
important to remember that. I mean, it's not a news. It's been in the code all along, but I think people might not see that. They're so used to put stuff in exchanges and trust them as banks. We know why we want Bitcoin, because we don't want banks. I'm not against exchanges. I'm not against banks. I'm just saying, you know the risk. You've seen what happened in Cyprus. You've seen what happened with MTGOX in crypto. Be smart. It's always better anyway to hold your own tokens and only use the exchange when you want to trade. I mean, it's even with Ether. Please don't leave your money on exchanges. Don't. Just don't. Don't do it.
Okay, I have some questions from the listeners.
Cool.
And the first question is, you've said in your proposal that you work with forward-thinking automotive manufacturers. And have you spoken with Tesla?
Forward-thinking what? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Automotive manufacturers.
Yes.
And have you spoken with Tesla?
No, I mean, not directly at least. We've encountered Tesla, I should say, but we haven't talked to them properly. We should.
Yeah, you should. Many people expect that from this.
I think there was this. The reason I say we encountered them is because when I did this presentation in Switzerland at Lyft, we presented this RWE charging station, and we thought it would be really, really cool, since we've historically, whenever we went on stage, we had a prototype, we had something physical people can play with, can touch. That's important to us. It's real. And we thought, well, what's the best thing for a charging station? Roll a Tesla on stage and charge it with a blockchain. And we wanted to do that, and we talked to some of our friend Clément AP from Celabs made contact with Tesla and said, right, would you be willing to share a car? And they said, yeah, that's cool, but the problem is they couldn't have it on stage because it just wasn't that kind of stage, right? It was a normal stage. So that's a shame, but we'll do it next time.
Yeah, because Tesla and SlockIt, it seems like a perfect fit for us. Yeah. Okay, the next question is, what do you think about Liske?
My mother said to me always, if you have nothing nice to say about something, don't say anything. So I won't say anything.
That's a negation, Okay. You've made an interview last week with the Bitcoin podcast, and there was this question I wanted to ask you, and you neglected, and it wasn't nice. So I'm gonna ask you again: how the world is gonna look like in 10 years?
How the world is gonna look like?
Really gonna use from now? I believe that you're the kind of before going to sleep thinks and have this thought drives and imagine the future. How do you imagine the future in 5-10 years? Because you're the guy on the front. You're gonna make it happen. So how do you imagine the world in 10 or 5 years from now?
I'm not going to change my answer from last week or yesterday, whatever it was. The bottom line is no one knows, right? But what I like about the world we live in today is that we have choices. So, before the internet, we didn't really have the potential to go and complain and directly interact like we're doing now and question and do the stuff we're doing today in terms of social media and so on. We didn't have this. We're very lucky to have it today. We have that power to say, hey, this looks wrong on a global scale. Surveillance is a problem. Centralization is a problem on the internet and things like that. People are aware. Snowden, things of that nature. Now people need to do something about it. So they have a choice. They can act. They can act by working on projects, supporting projects, things like that. But really, they have this choice, and the choice is: do you want to live in a world that looks like Star Trek, which I think would be nice, or do you want to live in a world that looks like Elysium, which a lot of people saying we're going towards? In fact, it's a little bit worrying. If you look at the movie theater, what's in the movie theater? Yeah, I have 2 kids. They're big now. I'm actually a lot older than I look. They're 21 and 16. My kids are going to see movies.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're big kids. Yeah, and so it's every movie they go and watch. It's a dystopia. It's Hunger Games, but people are starving. They need to kill each other for food. Everything is dystopia. Are they readying us for a dystopia? It's a little bit worrying.
SlockIt's going to allow that. It's SlockIt's going to make it happen or make it closer to happen, because I've heard.
No, I think it's closer to utopia. It's closer to decentralization. It's closer to Star Trek, I think. Now the people can choose to use it or not, but then again, that's also dependent on Ethereum. Do people choose to use Ethereum technology or not? There was a post on our technology yesterday. You started the conversation. You said congratulations, blah blah blah. People like you, etc. Perhaps in this circle, we tried to post, somebody in the community actually tried to post on our technology yesterday, and it was bad. It got completely shut down, and it got so many downvotes, and people said that looks like a scam. I don't understand it. Oh, it's based on Ethereum. I heard Ethereum was an altcoin. It's a scam. All altcoins are scam. Wow. We have a lot of work to do in terms of education.
We do, but
yeah,
but it was impossible. Actually, I think it was impossible to imagine a year from now in the past that the DAO could raise $20 million. It was impossible for me to imagine that. I didn't know that there's this much money in the community. Even even project like Liske get a lot of money, and probably not a lot of that. You know, most of the projects in this community. So we as a community has a lot of power. I think
the community has a lot of power. The community has a lot more power than it thinks it does. That's why the community should and can be afford to be to do due diligence on the projects that it backs. And we think the DAO is a good model. It's not a perfect model. It's certainly not finished. It's an experiment. As I said, governance-wise, there's still a lot of work to be done on there. Experiment with new models like futurarchy and things like that, potentially. But for now, it's the only thing out there that's fully decentralized. And I think it resonated with people, right? Because you can say, right, okay, there's all those issues and this and that. We covered quite a lot of them. As I said, 9 projects out of 10 in IT fail. Could it be a failure? Perhaps. That's true, it won't be. But, in terms of its potential, it's also huge. So you got a big upside. It compensates for it. I think people see that. I think people see it's interesting because it's really decentralized and fair. I mean, people are tired of just another coin. Initially, when we started this, and, Christoph was thinking, what should we do? And for him, it was always clear that we should never do a coin, yet another coin, an altcoin, another chain. That stuff is crap.
It's boring and it's old.
Yeah, it's just not interesting. So let's do something new. Let's try something new. Might work, it might not work. I certainly hope it works. I certainly believe it will work. I certainly believe in it. But we'll see. You see what the future holds. That's what's exciting. We're very lucky to be able to work in this. I mean, 3 years ago, I had a very boring desk job. It was really dreadful. Trust me. This is exciting.
Yeah, to sum up this interview, I really wanted to tell you that you look way awesome with the beard than without it.
Well, yeah, I didn't have the beard in my previous job. Maybe it's what held me down. They didn't want me to have a beard.
Okay, so Stephan, I really like to thank you for the interview. I hope we're gonna find some time in the future after the pre-sale, after a time to verify your statements from today and see what the future holds. And
let's see if it's Star Trek.
Yeah, I hope it's much more Star Trek than Elysium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you
everyone.
next time. Bye.